John McMullen, 97.3 ESPN.com. On the surface, there's the bell cow. There's the big back. 18 touchdowns, 1,200 yards, short yardage. But why are the Patriots letting this guy go is always in the back of our minds, isn't it?
Yeah, it should be. 18 touchdowns. You said it. Leading the NFL, that's the most, I think, since 2009, too. So that's a spectacular season. And then you think about he's not getting signed, but we saw it with the running back market as a whole, not just LeGarrette Blount. The fact he's going to be 31 years old this season, we know what that age means at the running back position, and then his history. It's proven to be he's a heck of a player in New England, but when he wasn't in New England, he wasn't tremendous. At least you have to go all the way back really to his rookie year when he ran for 1,000 yards. So it's an improvement. From the Eagles' standpoint, that's the way you have to look at it. There's no question he's better than what they had here. But if you think you're getting 18 touchdowns, you're probably a little pie in the sky, shall we say.
Right. Well, keep in mind, they're in a different situation. The offense is different. They used him different. Like, that's the thing with him. His numbers are even more impressive when you think about it. He's not the featured back week in and week out.
No, and you saw that in the playoffs when he sort of fumbled early and they went in a totally different direction in the Super Bowl. And that's what the Patriots do. I mean, they're deep and they use their entire roster. And one week it's one guy, and the next week it's another guy. But he's proven himself as certainly a tremendous red zone back at the bare minimum, and the fact that he could get so many touchdowns. So that's something you can't just ignore. Because, as I said, you have to go back to 2009. That's a long time before you find anybody who's had that level of success in rushing touchdowns.
Give me your vision of now how this backfield plays out. I mean, they got a four-man backfield. Unless LeGarrette Blount becomes the Ruben Randall of 2017 and they just say, look, we brought you in, didn't work, you're out, how do you see him fitting?
No, I think he's going to be the starting running back. I think he's going to be the guy, and I don't see this Ruben Randall situation just for the mere fact that you could tell Doug Peterson wasn't very excited thinking about a season where Wendell Smallwood was his top running back. So I think he'll be the two-down guy, and Darren Sproles will come in and be the third down back, and then you talk about the other guys sort of mixing in and being role players if somebody gets nicked. But those are going to be your two main backs.
John, you look at LeGarrette Blount, he's 30. This is a one-year deal. They've got a bunch of these one-year deals. What's the message with all these one-year deals?
Well, there's differing messages. You can't look at them all as they're the same because, as I said, if you're looking at LeGarrette Blount, for instance, it's different because, as I said, he's going to be 31 years old as opposed to an Alshon Jeffrey who sort of bet on himself and really could have gotten more money and more years in a different circumstance. But he thinks he's going to have a big year here and then cash in next year. So they're not all the same. Tim Jernigan obviously is on the last year of his rookie deal, so it's a glorified one-year deal from the Eagles' perspective, but not from his. But clearly, there's certain guys on prove-it deals, and sometimes it's for different reasons.
What's this mean for Wendell Smallwood?
Well, it means he doesn't have a chance to be the main back. And it was a concern for this team, and they didn't think he was ready to handle that role. You never say never because injuries are always abrupt in this sport. LeGarrette Blount, as we said, being past the age of 30, could decline significantly at any time, and they could use Wendell Smallwood. But as we stand here on May 17th, he's going to be a role player on this team. and he's going to be clearly the third back behind Blount and Darren Sproles.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of those things where they say, hey, we like you, but, not as our full-time guy. And if this one-year deal doesn't work out, maybe you jump in. It just seems that they were pretty dead set. So I don't know what that message tells him, that we don't view you as much more. I mean, are they grooming him, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, remember, he was a fifth-round pick. It's not like we're talking about a guy who was a first or even a second-rounder who was expected to come in and be an impact player. I think the realization was maybe he could develop, maybe he could turn into something down the line, and I don't think that changes. I don't think they're saying, we don't like Wendell Smallwood, we don't think he can ever be a running back in this league. This is a short-term deal. It's, in fact, if you had to lay money today on LeGarrette Blount being here next year, you'd probably be better off betting the negative in that fashion. He probably won't be back. It probably will be a one and done. And if Wendell develops, improves something, not only in games but in practices, we can revisit this next summer, and maybe he is ready to take over.
You had tweeted this morning the Eagles were the mystery team. I mean, how much is this a move that you got to give? I mean, is this a Howie move? Is this a Douglas kind of written on us? How do you evaluate who gets the pat on the back for this one, if you will?
No, this is a Howie move, and it's interesting because the Eagles are a strange organization in some ways. They'll tell you they're not ready to compete now, but then they'll make a move like this, which is clearly for the short term and clearly to improve the team this season. It's not going to do much for them long term. So they're trying to serve two masters, and they've been trying to do that for a number of years. They want to be competitive, and they also want to build for the future. Sometimes that's difficult. The team they just got him from, New England, though, is the perfect example of being able to do that consistently. I mean, they lose an 18-touchdown back, and nobody even blinks an eye because they know they're ready to go without him.
That's a great point, is that here's a guy with 1,200 yards and 18 touchdowns, and he's been a pretty important player for that team the last couple of years. It's not like this guy stunk, right? He's had a nice run with this team, kind of under the radar because of Brady, but he's piled up numbers and yards, and I saw this, I think Jimmy Kemsky tweeted this out, third down and 1 or 2, 14 carries, 53 yards, 3.8 yards a carry, and 3 touchdowns. On 4th and 1 or 2, he's got 5 carries for 54 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you combine those numbers on short yardage, 3rd or 4th down and 1 or 2, that's 19 carries for 109 yards and 5 touchdowns. I mean, that's big-time production in a very important category where this particular team has really stunk.
Yeah, I mean, it's, as we said, you're talking about a back who's 6 foot, 250 pounds. So as you can imagine,
do you
he's
think
really, really good.
Yeah. Do you think though that so I guess the question is, he's 30. Do you think he's just going to be Emmitt Smith? Go from 1,500 yards to 900 yards? I mean, is he just out of gas?
No, not necessarily. Well, first of all, remember, he was never the player Emmitt Smith was, and nor did he have.
I'm not right. By the way, I'm not comparing him to Emmitt Smith. I'm just talking about the precipitous drop that he had.
Yeah, I mean, we expect that from every player. But if you think about every running back, because history says it. I mean, when he hit that line of demarcation, which is 30, generally it's more downward than upward. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to fall off the table. It just means the career arc is starting its descent. I think when you talk about a guy like Emmitt Smith ending in Arizona, remember, he had so much tread off the tire. He handled the football so much every year, year in and year out. Whereas Blount, if you think about his time in Pittsburgh when he was the backup to Le'Veon Bell, he barely touched the football. So he hasn't had this consistent 350 carry seasons like you see with the running backs like Smith did back in the day, like Adrian Peterson more recently. He doesn't have that kind of mileage on him, so you hope he's got something less. There was no evidence that he was ready to completely fall apart last year. It was his best year. It was his career high in yardage, obviously his career high in touchdowns. So, again, from an Eagles standpoint, there's two things you have to understand. It's a lot easier to run the football when Tom Brady is the quarterback. I mean, let's just be honest. It makes everything easier. So you can't expect the same kind of success that he had in New England. However, as I said earlier in the call, he's a lot better than what you had on May 16th. So the Eagles are a better team today than they were yesterday.
Yeah, it's interesting because it kind of puts the offense into a different light than they were yesterday, right? I mean, they've got kind of the pass-catching guy on the backfield. They got the short yardage back. They went and got the spread the field kind of guy. They've got depth. They've got versatility at this. That signing really ties the offense together, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, this is a much improved team, and that's what they set out to do offensively. They wanted to get better around Carson Wentz, and if you want to boil it all down, they got Alshon Jeffrey to replace Dorial Green-Beckham. They got Torrey Smith to replace Nelson Aguilar, and they got LeGarrette Blount to replace Ryan Mathews. And that's an improvement, and a significant improvement, at three different positions.
Mm-hmm. John, I got to get your take on these comments today from Brady's wife about reoccurring concussions. I don't think this is much of a surprise. I think the fact that she came out and said it, she probably shouldn't have said it, but I'm assuming that every husband that goes home to their wife, and probably she has similar fears. I mean, I'm assuming there's guys walking all over this league with concussions that don't say anything.
Oh, yeah, and we've seen it here. We saw it a couple of years ago with Malcolm Jenkins. He admitted it, didn't want to come off the field. That's just the mentality of a lot of players. And, the first thing that happened when the NFL came up with this concussion protocol is players tried to figure out a way to beat it, to stay on the field, so they could stay on the game. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the difficulties the NFL has in battling with this, because when you're playing, when you're 23, 24 years old, and you're in the prime of your career, you think a lot differently than when you're 50 and you have a family, and all of a sudden the effects are starting to show up. And then your whole thought process changed and does a 180 and said, why didn't people protect me? Well, a lot of times you didn't want to be protected, and if you lie to doctors or coaches and try to feign your way and stay in the game, I don't know how you overcome that. It's just natural, and it's always happened in football, and I think it's going to continue.
So do the Patriots get in trouble for this? I mean, if he doesn't tell them anything, I mean, I'm assuming guys get hit all the time and don't say anything. Right. So the Patriots, they're not going to get looked at. But this, having something of that player's profile bring this out, you would imagine that's going to bring this to a greater light. That's what happens, right? It's different if, who's the, I don't know, name quarterback here, guy who plays for the Jets. I don't even know his name anymore. Josh McCown. Right, exactly. This happens to someone like that, it's kind of like, whatever. Brady's wife comes out and say this. The league says, all right, we got to look at this. I mean, you're probably going to get tighter, people getting looked at more.
Yeah, I mean, well, this has been such a big issue league-wide for a number of years now. I think it's been a concern mainly, there's the ethical and the moral standpoint, but also the legal standpoint, because the league has had to pay out significant amount of money due to the suit regarding concussions. So they're very wary, they're very concerned, and that's why you have this system set up today where you have independent spotters at the games who will call down and force officials to remove players if they think they have concussions. You have to be cleared by an independent neurologist before you can get back on the field if you're diagnosed with a concussion. So there's been a lot of changes really over the past decade, and even less than that, significant changes. And I'm not sure how much more you can do. I always say to the people who argue the NFL doesn't do enough, and there's only one way to stop concussions in professional football, and that's to stop playing football.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's no question about it. I mean, this is not going away at any time soon, and you just wonder, what the next step is. How much more can they police? The game is already being very criticized for how they've, cleaned the game up, and if you take it to another level, I'm interested to see what the next reaction is.
Yeah, well, I think the main problem is with the credibility of the league and the credibility of the commissioner, and the fact that no one believes he's above board, so to speak. So when you do have so-called independent spotters or independent neurologists, the critics say, the first thing they say is they're not independent. You can't prove a negative. So I think from a policy standpoint, the NFL has done everything they could do at this point.
Right.
And there's always going to be certain people who just don't believe they're being above board because of the history of the sport and the history of the game when they did ignore it, but also there wasn't as much information.
Right.
So if you have critics who are hell-bent on criticizing you, there's not much you can do about it.
All right, John McMullen, 97.3 ESPN.com. Read his piece right now on LeGarrette Blount, and I would assume that means Ryan Mathews. When's he get his pink slip?
Well, this had nothing to do. Whether LeGarrette Blount was going to be here or not, Ryan Mathews was not going to be here. So the hurdle with him is the fact that he had off-season neck surgery. You can't just release a player who's injured. And the thought has been for months now that the Eagles are waiting for Ryan Mathews to get healthy enough where he can pass a physical, and at that point they'll release him. But he's certainly not going to be back, and he wasn't going to be back whether Blount was here or not.
All right, John McMullen, at JF McMullen on Twitter, and don't forget to cover his national NFL coverage at FanRag Sports NFL, and every day at this time on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. John, have a great day, pal.
Hey, thank you, Mike.